Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface on the alpha for Battle for Azeroth. Hashtag alpha things. Now, this is the very first video that I'm actually going to make about this upcoming expansion. And so I had to say to myself, what is the very first thing I should do? What should I put out there to start things off with? And so I had a little think, should I do upright orcs? Should I do a walk around Borealis, for example, so you can see this amazing city and things like that? And I decided, no, I decided the very first thing that I'm going to do is get back to my roots. You see, when I started the game back up again in November of last year, having taken a year break, just a little bit over a year break, I went back to my Warlock instead of going back to Demon Hunter. I'd actually done the vast majority of testing on my Demon Hunter during Legion, and then when it released, I played the Demon Hunter up until I left the game. That's not saying that I left the game because of the Demon Hunter. But when I returned in November of last year, I wanted to go right back to where it all started from, and that was my Warlock. But that came with certain decision-making processes. You see, the reason why I had abandoned the Warlock after 9 years of playing it at the time and moving to the Demon Hunter is I just couldn't manage to gel with any of the specs when they were tweaked and changed in Legion. I just didn't quite get a grasp of the Affliction. I didn't quite like it with its drains instead of direct spells. I found that demonology was way too micromanagey as regards to your demons, and that you yourself didn't actually do too much. And then with destruction, a spec that I'd played for a long time since Mists of Pandaria, I just found it so clunky. Very clunky indeed, and I couldn't bring myself to even play that spec one bit, even with the changes that they did afterwards. But when I did come back, I managed to reconnect with Affliction. And I did really like the way that Affliction played. And I started to get used to the drains instead of direct casts. And I got used to all the multiple UAs instead of single UAs and things of that kind of ilk. So today's very first video is going to be about how Affliction plays in Battle for Azeroth. And what I can tell you is I have tested all 3 specs now, and I think that the Warlock currently, and everything is subject to change, is in a very, very good position coming into this new expansion. So the very first video I'm going to do is focus on the Affliction spec for the Warlock. Don't worry, I will do separate videos for Destruction and Demonology as well. Because the amount of changes which have been made to these specs, they absolutely deserve their own day in the sun. And before I go through the talent tree, and by the way, if you see me doing this throughout the course of this next stage of the video, it's because I've actually got the Legion talents over there on my second screen. So I'm going to be comparing and contrasting how different the 2 talent trees are. Before I go into the talents, there is one big thing straight away from the get-go which has happened with Affliction. And if you are a Warlock and you look at my spell bar just across there, you may notice that there is a spell which has been in the game since day 1 that is missing, and it's because it's now been removed from Affliction. And that is Life Tap. Life Tap has now gone. If I bring up the spell book, you can see H to S, Life Tap has vanished. It's no longer in the game. It has been taken out. It's been removed. Now, before any of you start going, "Ah, Life Tap for life," hashtags and shit like that, I gotta say, having played Affliction, I genuinely didn't even notice that Life Tap had gone. And so, to me, if you're not noticing that an ability is there, a spell or an ability is there, then, yeah, maybe it was time to move it along, to retire it, or whatever. But because Life Tap has been such an integral part of the game for a Warlock for so long, I'm sure there are people that are actually going to miss that style of tapping back for life to get mana. And yeah, I miss that, especially when it used to automatically empower you and things like that. And when we go to Classic, Life Tap is really kind of more of a risk-reward spell, because the amount of life that you lose when you life tap in Classic WoW against the amount of mana that you gain, sure, that mana could just kill off your opponent with enough spells, but with the huge sacrifice of health that it used to take, you could actually get caught short in the process. But those days are long gone, and has life tap had its time? Quite possibly. So, with that said, and all the people wiping tears from their eyes at the passing of life tap, let's get on to the talent tree. Now, I will say that I personally subscribe to the school of thought that I choose the talents that I find the most interesting, as opposed to the talents which may necessarily be the strongest or the cookie cutter go-to ability. And if I choose one and I incorporate it in my playstyle and I like the way that it plays, I'll keep it. If I don't like the way it plays or find that I'm actually not going to that spell or ability, then I'll look at the other two, which I passed over initially, and redesign my school of thought. But I've built up my talent tree purely on what I think sounds cool and interesting to go into the Affliction spec. But first of all, even though we lost a friend, we've gained a friend with Shadow Embrace. People who have been dealing with Warlocks in the past, Shadow Embrace used to be quite a big spell in the old school talent trees. It was, I think, stacking up to 5 stacks, not 3, but it could be 3. It's been a long time since we've had it. Shadow Bolt applies Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 3% for 10 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. Obviously, if you're making sure that you're spamming your Shadow Bolts, not Malefic Grasp, not Drain Soul, Shadow Bolts. Malefic Grasp, gone. Drain Soul, gone. Gone. Yeah, we're back on to direct casting. And this is quite exciting for me, because the reason why I'm really liking the Affliction spec in Battle for Azeroth so far is it actually feels more old school Warlock than it has in such a long time. We are dotting and we are direct spell casting. And that is the way that I spent years and years playing Warlock until Malefic Grasp came along and, you know, Drain Soul started to go to the go-to. I know Drain Soul was always incorporated at the end of a Warlock spec, but I really like the way that this has kind of gone. So yes, you're going to be casting Shadow Bolts again, back at the target, no drains apart from drained life. We'll have a look at that when I do the gameplay section of it, because it's got a new animation. And it just comes across as old school, fun Warlock. So Shadow Embrace can stack up 3 times. So if you are spamming your Shadow Bolts, of course, you're going to have 3 stacks up pretty much at all times. And that's going to deal 9% damage extra to the target. So it is a good one to have, Shadow Embrace. But when we get on to the last one, Deathbolt, you'll kind of see why I've decided to choose Deathbolt, because it's just, if it had testicles, they'd be like this big, and it's just like, balls fun. Haunt, old school Haunt, you know, it's the kind of same thing. I don't really have to go too much into Haunt. You know, casting, deals X damage, target dies, cooldowns reset, blah, blah, blah. It's not the old school Haunt that we used to have, where it used to cast on, do X amount of damage, come back, heal you. I really like that Haunt. If they bring that Haunt back, I'd be interested, but, you know, no. So let's get on to the big boy. Deathbolt, new ability, new spell. This might sound crazy, but in practice, it's even crazier. Launches a bolt of death at the target, dealing 35% of the total remaining damage of your damage over time effects on the target. Now, that's quite a mouthful, ladies. Let's just put it into perspective. You put corruption onto a target. Now, I've gone with absolute corruption, which is corruption at all times. I think it's an absolute go-to spell. So, you've got corruption on your target ticking for sustained damage. You have agony, which is ticking, adding stacks, and every stack that's added to agony doing more damage. And then you have UA. And of course, you can now cast multiple UAs depending on how many soul shards you have. So if I have a full stack of 5 soul shards, I can stick 5 UAs onto that target. Now just imagine Corruption, Agony, 5 stacks of UA, and then I cast Deathbolt. Now let's read it from that perspective. Launches a bolt of death at the target, dealing 35% of the total remaining damage of your damage over time effects on the target. 5 UAs, 35% of the remaining damage of 5 UAs. 35% of the remaining corruption. 35% of the remaining agony. Alright, we've got to take a break in proceedings now. Let's just see that in action. Right, here are some Saralisks at the beginning of Drustvar. Now, if I was to drop a Corruption, an Agony, now I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 UAs on, cast Deathbolt. Look how much health it's got left. Bye. 46% health it had left. Pancake. This is Deathbolt. This is just amazing. Now, the reason why I have not really spoke about, too much anyway, about Drain Soul, kind of being like the execute of Affliction. This is an execute and a big haymaker at the same time. It's an all-in-one, all-encompassing. It's crazy. Now, yes, it does have a cooldown, but it's only got a cooldown of 25 seconds. So if you were running from mob to mob to mob to mob to mob, you'd be able to hit Deathbolt every other mob without any doubt whatsoever. But just look, we'll look at it again. I didn't even have to have 5 stacks for these creatures. Agony, Corruption and Agony. 1, 2, 3 UAs. Deathbolt! Boom! How can you not love this? How can you not love this? It's just absolutely crazy. It's such a powerful impact. So I've got these Shadow Bolts. I'm getting these Nightfall procs. Nightfall, we'll get onto that in a minute. Return of another old friend. So again, Corruption, Agony. 1, 2, 3. Deathbolt comes out. Bang! Mama said, knock you out. Absolutely fun as balls. Brilliant. So, I don't know if Deathbolt is actually going to be the strongest on that line. I don't know if Shadow Embrace is actually going to be better than it, or possibly even Haunt better than it. I don't care. I don't care. I need Deathbolt in my life. I need it inside me. I just want it, because that is just the most fun thing I've done with an Affliction Warlock in God knows how many years. So, let's continue now. We've got Wraith of Agony's been moved to the second row. I've gone again with Absolute Corruption. And Death's Embrace, which was a top-level ability, has now found itself down over here as well. So, there's good options to choose from on this. I just prefer Absolute Corruption because I'm lazy. Next row, same. We've got Demon Skin, Burning Rush, and Dark Pact. I always go Burning Rush, of course. Most people tend to anyway. Demon Skin, sure, and Dark Pact if you want to, but yeah, I do like my big AoEs, so I prefer to go for Sow the Seeds, which gives an additional seed when you're doing your Seed of Corruptions. I like that a lot. You do have your Phantom Singularity here now, which you can place above the target, yada yada, heals you, blah blah blah. And you got your Soul Harvest, good boost, good pep, but I just, you know, there's lots of packs of AoE in this game, and to me, Sower Seeds is the one that I would prefer to go for. Now, the next one is really up to you. I reckon a lot of people will probably go Demonic Circle. Mortal Coil really will have its uses, depending on the situations that you're in. And Dark Fury, Shadow Fury has now gone across all specs as a base spell. And I do like, it's on a minute cooldown, and I do like an AoE stun to be honest. So I've gone with Dark Fury to reduce it from 1 minute cooldown down to 45 seconds. You can see it there. It's another... Shadow Fury's an old school spell, which, you know, it takes my heart. And then Nightfall. Where there's Shadowbolt, there has to be Nightfall, in my opinion, and Blizzard haven't let me down. So Nightfall, of course, your Corruption has a chance to fire off a next Shadowbolt for free. Also does 25% increased damage. So those Nightfall procs are better than ever, and it's great to see Nightfall back. I love Nightfall, so you know, it's just again another old school. And this is what I spoke about at the beginning of the video about how this spec, it feels good and cool to play, but at the same time, it feels as if it's kind of gone a little bit back to its roots. I've said this a few times in the video as well, but it does feel a little bit more old school. And its abilities like Nightfall, of course, that kind of bring that to the table. Still another ability to come, so you never know. Something special might be there that drags me away, but to me, that's probably going to be the go-to at the moment. Grimoire Sacrifice, you know, you can sacrifice a demon for X amount of damage. Yeah. I don't, you know, on a personal level like that too much. Soul Conduit, I like to have a heady amount of soul shards. So to me, if you've got a 15% chance of getting a soul shard back after you use one, that's really good. Because obviously the more soul shards I have, the more access to UAs that I've got. And especially going with Deathbolt, if I've got more UAs on the target, Deathbolt's just going to hit for harder. So for me, Soul Conduit is really a very, very useful spell. I'll go to Creeping Death in a second. Siphon Life is another dot, of course. Healing you, plus doing damage. I think there's enough dots in the rotation at the moment, especially when we see how the mobs of your particular level just get crushed if you're using Deathbolt. So there's no real need for another dot, one that's healing you, when we've got Drain Life as well, which I'm going to show you the new Drain Life animation. It looks very nice indeed. And then Creeping Death. This is quite interesting. I mean, Soul Conduit and Creeping Death were the two that really piqued my interest. Your Agony, Corruption, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. Now, that's an interest, of course, because that means that Agony is going to ramp up quicker. And if you combine Agony with Deathbolt, because it does its remaining damage, yeah. Ooh, yeah. It's getting to the good stuff quicker. So it was a tough decision, but I went for I think the Soul Conduit's the safer option in terms of you're always going to get a flow of soul shards back, whereas Creeping Death, although it's nice in the fact that it's doing the damage quicker, you're not necessarily going to get those soul shard procs, which means you ain't necessarily going to get more UAs on the target. But I will test the two out and see which one kind of works out for the best. But I've just, I think, gone with the safe option for now. So that's a look at the talent tree. Now let's just go into some general combat play, and I'm also going to show you the new animation on the Drain Life. Right, so I found myself Mudfish Lodge. There's some birdies flying around here, so let's just dot it up generally. Now I'm going to get myself some distance here so you can see the animation. Look at the Drain Life now. So you've got the purple representing the soul, and the soul being sucked out of it, turning into the green, which is the representation of life. So I do really like this new animation for the Drain Soul. I've got a couple. Oh, awesome. This is a good chance for me to just show off Deathbolt again in all its beautiful glory. 1, 2, 3. Even get a 4th this time. Well, that's going to go quite easily, isn't it? And then let's just get a Drain. So, Drain Life on it. That's a really cool looking animation. Now, it looks like Affliction's animations themselves haven't been changed. I still seem to be casting as I normally would. I don't see any difference in that regard. But I do know that a lot of the destruction spells, from what I've seen, have had severe tweaks to their animations and look really, really cool indeed. So when we do the destruction video, we'll get to see those, but just a little bit more. I can't do this video without ending on another Deathbolt. 1, 2, 3, Deathbolt. Fly, my pretty, fly. So to sum up the Affliction changes, all in all, and I know they are subject to change, it is the alpha after all, but currently I am very, very happy indeed with the way that it plays. I'm totally okay that Life Tap's gone. I'm totally okay that Malefic Grasp and Drained Soul are no longer there as drains, and they've replaced it with Shadow Bolt, and of course adding the Nightfall really gives it that old school. I know I said it so many times, but it's so true. It just feels as if you're playing an old school version of Affliction, but yet at the same time it feels fresh and fluid, and that's the most important part. Any spec that you play should feel fluid, and this does, absolutely. So yeah, and Deathbolt, well, Deathbolt is madder than a box of frogs. I'm going to have so much fun with this spell. It's just such a punchy knockout. Trash is going to get absolutely mollered. So first impressions of Affliction, huge thumbs up. Don't worry, we'll get to Destruction and Demonology very soon indeed, but I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell icon next to the subscription as well to absolutely make sure you get your Battle for Azeroth Alpha and Beta videos from myself, and I'll give you my thoughts and feelings on that. Also, in the links down below, I've got my social media, my Twitter, and also my Twitch for live streaming, so please go and follow those as well. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now. And Deathbolt, well, that's more fun than a box of frogs that's been put in a microwave. It's just absolutely amazing. I can't have that. I can't have that.